Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April meeting of the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission. Um, we're going to kick things off with Helen. We're going to go out of order a little bit because Helen has another obligation. Helen has been working with the outreach team to basically lead the wholesale revisitation of our website. So before you show us what you've been putting together with your team, why don't we just look at our March minutes first while we have quorum? So does anybody, Donna, thank you. She sent those into us revised last week. Uh, are there any additions or changes that anybody would like to make to the March minutes? Okay, then can I get a motion to approve the minutes from March?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
I second.
Okay, great. All in favor of approving our March minutes, please raise your hand. Great. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, with that out of the way, Helen, do you want to show us what you've been
Yeah.
Madeline and others have been noodling on?
Yeah. I mean, what I have to show you all is pretty basic and simple, but we just want to sort of begin to consolidate what we have, what we need, and come up with kind of a scope of work for how to move forward with getting somebody under contract to redo the site. So let me see if I can share my screen. Yes, here we go. Let me just change this. Okay. Share. All right. Slideshow. Okay, so this is just a little snapshot of what we have right now. And our website, I'm not exactly sure how old it is, but pretty darn old. And it's was done in WordPress. It was done in a blog format, which was popular at one time. And, technology moves ahead. So this is no longer kind of the standard approach for doing websites. And you can see that our page is very, it's hard to know what to focus on. You really don't see a lot of hierarchy of graphics, and then most of the information that we put out is included in this recent news, which comes out as it's time dependent. So it just comes out, whenever there's a new post. That's what you see, and all the old posts just kind of go down the page. And so it's hard to look up information about, where public art is, how do you get involved, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, and one of the things that we do is when we do have a call for artists, we have a click here for more information. Can you see my cursor when I put it over here? Yeah. Okay, so this click here for more info, it just takes you right out to the ACC website, and then you kind of get into that whole web graphics and organization, and it becomes even more confusing in some ways. And it's very cumbersome, and you don't go back to our website very easily. So then when it comes to projects that we have ongoing, it just shows up as a news feed, and it doesn't really showcase projects in a way that I think artists would like to see their work showcased on a website, in a nice presentation. We have a gallery menu item, a gallery page that's all old photos that aren't even relevant to what we do right now. And then there's really nowhere to showcase our community arts grants, the poetry project, the Music Walk of Fame, all that kind of thing is sort of just buried in our news feed. So a lot of things to improve. And so what I did is kind of just put together I am sharing this. Here we go. So what we could do with our homepage is really want to clean it up and simplify the graphics, use something eye-catching, but that really focuses on visual hierarchy. And what I wanted to do with this presentation and PowerPoint is just show the kind of information that could be organized under each page. And it's not intended to be a graphic concept, but just how we can organize the information and present it to the public cleanly and simply. And so just over here on the menu, I think our menu is fairly good. We should have a menu, a page about us, maybe a page about calls for art, another page for recent public art projects, a page for art in community grants. It'd be really nice to have some kind of way to find public art in the community, so some kind of art locator. We have a link to our public art master plan, so it'd be good to keep that there. Gallery, we might play around with having some kind of gallery. I'm not sure how that would relate to recent public art projects, but something along those lines. And then I think it'd be worthwhile to have a separate page for Music Walk of Fame, just because that is kind of a standalone project that gets updated periodically, and it would just be nice to kind of have its own place on our website. Likewise with Poet Laureate, where we can talk about how it evolved, who's the current poet, who are past poets, all that kind of stuff. And then a contact us page. And so just for, purposes of how we could do this, we could have a button for calls for art, a button for where do you find art in our town. It'd be nice to have a news feed on our homepage, but maybe not as prominent as it is right now. And then some way to get to really focus on recent projects and have easy ways to get there. And then as far as the About Us pages, I just sort of excerpted what we already have, the verbiage we already have, thinking what we really need to do is go back and review and edit the existing text. So I just consolidated the text in this one document so we can easily look at what we already have. And I don't mean to go through and wordsmith this today, but it's in this file just so that you know. And then we have again, in the About pages, we have a history about our commission. And again, it probably needs some reviewing and rewriting. And one thing to mention is that when we contract this out with a firm, they're going to rely on us to provide the content. So all the verbiage, all the photography, that kind of stuff, we'll have to provide to them. And so we as a group have to agree on what the verbiage and content matter is going to be. We have a list of goals on our current website. And these goals, when you look at the goals of our master plan, they don't really align. And we may be coming up with new goals as we go into retreats and kind of revisit where we're headed. We might have a different kind of list for what our goals are right now, or another way of presenting it. So just food for thought on that. On our About pages, we also have a list of commissioners and staff. We have really lengthy bios for each one of us, and I think we could really edit that down to some one-liners so that people don't have to wade through the lengthy biographies for each of us. That's just my suggestion. And then, just for having a call, when we do have a call for arts, if we had a page that had a call for art, it'd be nice to be able to, you know, have what the project is, what the relevant dates are, a description of the project, a budget, maybe some photos, a location map, something on our own website that describes this project, and then have a link to the city website with the actual RFP form, because it's really the city that manages those application forms, and they do a really good job with it. I think what's harder for them is just to get a clean graphic format for a presentation. And likewise, if we have a grant application, we could have a similar kind of description and relevant information about grants. And then it sure would be nice to have, a place to really showcase recent projects, projects from the past year or so, have photographs, and then maybe have a link to more information about these projects. So maybe this is kind of a gallery format, nice photographs, and, title and year and that sort of thing. And then for each project, so we have a place where you could link to get more information about each project. Then there we could have maybe more photographs, contextual photographs, maybe some of the sketches that the artist came up with in their original proposal. And then of course, date, the artist, the medium, the location, other information about those projects. And then I think a similar type of page, separate page for the community arts grants. I think it'd be really nice to have an explanation of what an art and community grant is, and we don't really have that on our website except when we do the news feed. So we could have like a standalone, something we don't have to always reinvent, standalone description of what an art and community grant is, and then maybe have some information about past projects, because a lot of artists like to see what has been awarded in the past. So maybe here we can put some information about projects that have been funded in the past by us. And then of course we want to have something about our master plan. Now, right now it's kind of funny because when you click on our master plan link, it says the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission is pleased to announce that the Athens Public Art Master Plan was accepted. And so, of course, this was a long time ago, so I think we're done with announcement, and just need to reword that to say something else. Anyway, so there's that, and of course, we can have links to the file, and have some other graphics related to that. And then it'd be really cool to have some kind of map-based locator. Maybe it's Google Maps, maybe it's some other map that we come up with. And there's some options there that we can take a look at. So anyway, we need to explore how best to do that, but I think it'd be great to have something. And then again, as I said, a separate page for the Music Walk of Fame, a map, some graphics, a description, history, all that sort of thing. And there could be maybe more in-depth links to other information about this as well. And then also Poet Laureate, here we can have who the Poet Laureate is, what their tenure is, what their program is, their bio, and then, as we have poets over the years, we can have a list of past poets. And then contact us. And that's pretty straightforward, and there could be other things that we need to do. So anyway, this was my starting point for just getting the ball rolling on, in particular, preparing to get a scope of work together for getting quotes from vendors. And as I understand it, we have been looking at a budget of somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, eight being kind of, maybe the aiming at something in that ballpark. And so budget. Yeah, that was going to be our budget.
Give me the ballpark one more time.
Somewhere between 5 and 10.
Then.
And so if we're under $10,000, I think we can get 3 quotes from vendors and choose from, those vendors. I'm not quite clear if we have to choose the lowest bid, but I guess we'd have to have a pretty good reason why not. And I think we
I
can.
think it's not just the lowest bid, and Stephanie might be able to comment on that, but it's if they meet all the criteria. So if we have a certain timeline, if we have, certain needs that they need to check all those boxes, then that's kind of how it. Yeah.
Okay.
This is great. Thanks, Helen, for and your team for all the work that went into this.
That's great, Helen. Thank you for that
I say
presentation.
let's get the ball rolling early in the new fiscal year.
Yeah, or we could, if we have funding available between now and the end of the fiscal year, we could get it going and, do sort of phase 1, sort of, starting to look at alternatives or schemes and then develop the website in the next fiscal year. We could break it up into those phases if we wanted to.
A potential first phase could just be putting a very minimal skeleton of just templates for all of the things that Helen described. And I think the bulk of the work will really be filling all that content with the photos and everything else, but just getting that basic template in place might be a good first step, and it might not take that long. We might be able to get that done. Well, I guess with the bid, I don't know how long the bid process would take. So I don't know if it might be cutting it pretty close to get it done before the end of the fiscal year, but that would be a good.
Yeah, I would say in the first step would be just determining the visual theme for the website, what we want the template to look like, what the colors are, what the fonts are, all that kind of stuff. And then once we get a basic theme, we kind of have our colors and our logo. We're not going to really change that. So I'm not exactly sure how graphic artists do that, but as a designer, I usually like to come up with a couple alternatives and get some feedback and then choose an alternative to pursue. So I imagine that's how they might work. And the other thing I might mention is that this website is already in WordPress, which really helps to save a lot of time because they don't have to reinvent a lot of wheels in the background. So we have a lot of the background stuff already set up in WordPress, which is kind of nice. So, and I do think one other thing that I think we need to do is sit down as a smaller group, the outreach committee, and maybe with you, Tatiana, Stephanie, just to make sure that we're coordinating, city side and commission side, and who's going to make the decisions, and who's going to do what in terms of developing content and review and all that sort of thing. So we might want to do that soon, in the next month or so. And I would like to get a list of, if anybody has good ideas or knows of graphic design firms that would be good for this. We know I have one already, chatted with one or two folks just to make sure that we're in the ballpark budget wise and scope with the kind of scope that we're looking at, and we are.
So, you say graphic design, did you mean web design or just graphic design?
It kind of goes hand in hand. So they will do the web, what you see, the graphics is the is the graphics, but when you click and go somewhere, that's the web part of it. So it all kind of goes together. Yeah, and I know, I'm aware of Captivate, and I've chatted with them, but we need a couple more vendors to chat with. So, any other comments, questions?
If anybody outside of that small group you mentioned has feedback or ideas, what's the best way to share that? Could they just email you directly, or?
Maybe I could put this PowerPoint presentation on our Google Drive, and people could look at it. And if there's some other ideas for what we might want to think about moving forward, comment that way. Certainly an email works, but it kind of does help. What do we do? What was that comment? Wait. I was trying to see the comments, but anyway, I won't take up time with that. So I'll put it on the Google Drive.
Be great. And if you could just get an email chain going and let it link to the drive, and then that can get our collective feedback.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. I will do that. I will go ahead and send out an email to everybody and solicit feedback.
Thanks. That's
Okay.
great.
Great.
Good. I
Very,
can't wait to get this going.
Yes, thank you.
All right, how do I stop? I'm going to stop.
There we go.
There
Thank
you
you.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll be quick. So we have our retreat May 14th. The strategy team is met a couple weeks ago. We talked about our goals with the facilitator. I passed that along to the facilitator earlier today. Although if you guys have any ideas on retreat topics beyond what you put in Victoria's survey in January, just reach out to me and I'll pass that along to the facilitator. And treasurer's notes. Darcy, would you like to summarize what we did a couple weeks ago and we'll continue working on?
Sure. So we basically looked at the SPOS 2020 or 2011, I guess is what the funds were from. And what we're trying to do is look at to see, what are the projects that have kind of a smaller budget that we can put some of our funds towards. So I guess the major thing that we did is we looked who had the smallest budget, anybody like under, I think it was 5,000. We wanted to kind of support those a little bit. So we came up with a list of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different projects. So I don't know if you want me just to list them out or
No, we can share it at the retreat, but I just wanted the group to know that this is a work in process. That one of the goals for the retreat needs to be identifying priorities for funding and having reaching group decisions on that, not just talking about it, but putting stakes in the ground when it comes to spending down our 2 capital accounts. And then part of that discussion too needs to be the extent to which, basically how we're going to fund the Jackson Street Art Walk, the art component of the Jackson Street Art Walk. Yeah, just food for thought for now.
but we'll have all of those listed out for everybody at the retreat, and then everybody can weigh in on what they think.
Yes, and in a similar vein, we've deputized our first task force. Serena can't be here tonight, but Mickey is on that, just to help scale our work. And we know that bike racks in particular, and this is a bicycle related task force, bike racks in particular were a main focus of our public art master plan. So that's a pretty clear case of what we should be spending Project 21 but funds on. That's our biggest pool of money. The $400,000 that was meant to create and start enacting the public art master plan. And yes, Mickey and Serena will have updates for us at the retreat as well. Okay, Tatiana, you want to guide us through projects?
Or let's see, these up here. So Clayton Street, Diane and I were out there a couple weeks ago taking some measurements in preparation for Eric to install his pieces. They are being fabricated as we speak. He's got one module complete and not powder coated yet, so it's not as impressive to look at. Once they're all powder coated, they'll really look like something. But she and I and a couple of the contractors were down there just measuring from his schematic to make sure that, you know, these are being fabricated elsewhere when they're brought in. We want to make sure they fit. And so, so far, all is well with the areas that are built. You know, what we could measure. There's still some areas that are under construction on Clayton. But if you haven't been down to Clayton Street in a while, it's really coming together. So the trees are in, a lot of the streetscape and brickwork and stuff is all finished. It's really looking nice. So, Dan, anything you want to add about Clayton?
You're asking me?
Yes.
I would just tell you all that his original fabrication drawing showed 17 modules, but he's gone down to 14, and that's just because the cost of materials has gone up. But it's still, there's a lot that'll be down on the street, so it'll look really awesome when it's in.
Thank you, Diana. And so yeah, that fabrication is pending, and we're still looking at a late May install for that. Poet Laureate, April is Poetry Month. So happy Poetry Month, everyone. We have a few things going on for Poetry Month. Yesterday, we had a reading at the library with Jeff, our Poet Laureate. It was really lovely. And we ordered about 50-ish copies of 2 poetry anthologies that he selected for a giveaway. So we gave a number of those out to those who attended, and we still have quite a few left. So if you want a copy, come by the Linen House, and we have 2 copies, 2 different titles, one by Joy Harjo and one by Ilya Kaminsky. So so that was really wonderful. We also have some posters that are being displayed in various businesses and organizations around town with poems by our Poet Laureate. And we have a form on our website. I'll post the link in the chat in just a few, where you can request a poem from our Poet Laureate and just put your name and your address, topic or theme, and he'll send one to you in the mail or to a friend or family or loved one or whatever. So some nice little interactive, low contact ways to celebrate Poetry Month. So that is Greenway 2. Our Greenway group needs to get together and work on those call drafts soon. We were going to do that last week, but we had a conflict with strategy team meeting. Firefly 2, we are still talking about some art types. We've had a little bit of a pivot with the funding. Initially, we were spreading out the funding between multiple phases. And now with the upcoming T-Splost, the phase 3 of the Firefly Trail will have its own funding for art. So we can take the remaining Firefly budget and focus it on phase two. So we may do multiple pieces. So we're still having those discussions. So that's Firefly 2. Cost of building, it's still a little bit on hold while the mayor and commission make decisions about occupancy and who's going to be in that building. And then we can have some more finite discussions about art location, knowing what the building use will be. So that is on hold for the time being until later this summer when they make a decision about.
You know when that vote is?
So this is going to be, there's not going to be a July vote. So I believe August will
Okay.
be.
Thanks. And that's for occupancy of all floors, right?
As far as I know, or at least for part of it. As I understand it, I don't know if they've made any decisions about occupancy yet. So I don't know what the goal is to make that decision all at once or in phases. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I will update everyone when I know more on that. Classic Center Arena tomorrow night is our work session presentation for art type and location. And so I will be there with John, who's the project manager for that project. And we will be presenting the locations and types for multiple sub projects on that arena. So we have that gateway piece and then multiple wall pieces. So hopefully that will be quick and painless, and and that will go on to a mayor and commission vote from that work session. Affordable housing that got moved to a June work session, so we have a little bit of time to work on public engagement. That was originally going to be an April work session. It's going to be cutting it very close. So those are still kind of in the works with scheduling and planning with leisure services. They're kind of leading the way with that engagement because they are well versed in the ways and means of doing that. So I will keep everyone posted when we have more events on our schedule, but we're going to utilize our pop-up park and a number of other methods that we have to kind of get folks not just showing up for a meeting, but getting really excited and engaged. Mm-hmm. So, Athens Music Walk of Fame, we are still working on getting in touch with all our inductees and making sure we have everyone's blessing before we move forward. Without naming any names, I did get a contact from Darcy for the personal assistant for someone we've been having a hard time getting in touch with, and I did get in touch with that assistant and spoke with them, and hopefully we'll be hearing back very soon. So that's all I will say about that. Andrew, I'll get back to you about scheduling that meeting with Athfest. I just haven't been at my computer much today, so tomorrow I'll figure out the best day we can do that and figure out our timeline for our announcement and everything for the next round.
So yeah, just for the time being, we're exploring feasibility with AppFest of integrating those two, and if so, to what extent? Still, we haven't sat down to chat yet.
Yeah. Few chats happening about that in coming weeks. I did check in with the bronze company, and they're heading into their busy time. But they said as it stands now, they have a short turnaround of about 8 weeks, which is really good, but that may change. So whenever we are ready to order, that's kind of more or less what we can expect for when we'll get our plaques. And historically, once we get them in, our streets and drainage team is really awesome about getting them installed late. They make it look so easy, but it's amazing. So that'll be coming up this summer. And we have some small project opportunities we can discuss more at the retreat for eco stations and the Portland Loo and some other kind of smaller projects that might be, kind of small 2D projects, maybe even just digital art, that sort of thing. So that's it for projects. Any questions about? No.
Okay, thanks. Arts and Community Awards. Stephanie, are you prepared to give us a high overview of where that stands and why we need to make some decisions today?
The Art and Community Awards, I've been in dialogue with the manager's office and the attorney's office, looking at how we executed the Art and Community Awards for the resiliency, the big round that we did. And that was, those were odd times where we're kind of working really disjointed, because that was like deep COVID where everyone was working from home. So some of those, maybe we needed to have more scrutiny on them. So we've revisited some conversations. The attorney's office has looked at some of the ways we've been doing them, and those were contracts because we had to have contracts because of the funds and the sources. So now what we're still in some dialogue, but I have talked to them about being able to do another round of Art and Community Awards. But because some of the things that they were thinking about and we're looking over have to do with like the physical objects and also proximity or placed on private property and things like that, we thought that going performance-based for these next round would buy us more time to sort of make those discussions and refine those parameters. So we've talked, Andrew and I, and talked about doing some that were just like, think of it as a theme. This round would be performances. So these Art and Community Awards would, function as a way to support a public art display that was like experiential or performative, a play, a dance performance, something. And so that's kind of where we're landed on it as we look at the sort of how we're doing Art and Community Awards.
Would the performance-based ones need a contract at all?
No, they think they will do. We might add some wording to the sort of, right now we offer like a kind of an agreement document that says we're giving you these funds, we expect a report back and that you'll complete it by this certain date. And I think that will still stand because we're still doing the amounts under the like under $2,500. I think the MOU will still stand. I think that just making them not circled around an object at this time would be useful, and seems like we could still fund some interesting work that would bring art to our community.
And can I ask Stephanie, could these performances have groups of people working together, like a small group? If it's theatrical, each person gets a grant, but they work together to make a production, or?
That is something we'd have to figure out in the call, like how people apply. I think
like as it stands now, we have it where you can apply as an individual or as a group or as an organization, and you just kind of note in your application how you're applying.
We've definitely done it, and since I've been a member, it would be one award per like project, not per person involved in the project. So like if it's a theatrical group and there's 5 actors, we don't give grants or awards rather to all 5 actors. It would be one for the project.
Well, that's how we've done it. And that's why I'm wondering
Yeah.
if we can do it differently this time, because dividing up $2,000 or whatever with 5 people, it might help a little bit, but it's certainly not going to be really, I don't know. I just think it needs to be discussed.
I think if in order to do it that way, you would just have to apply as an individual. Because we still have to award the project. I think that was kind of the issue with the gratuities clause, is that it had to be project based and not just awarding individual.
Mhm.
So I think in that regard, we would just say we would have to change the call to just individuals, and figure out, an amount for each one. And if they want to collaborate, they can, but yeah, it has to be project based, I think.
So we have $4,000 earmarked for that for this fiscal year. But if we're gonna make it, we've only got 3 months left, so we've got to get a call out pretty soon. Is that possible?
We've got a good starting point. Like we've got our process down. We have the application RFP that we did last time. I think the only like improvement that I think I remember hearing about is it would be helpful to see the RFP, the application, to see that laid out in like a PDF format so that I can just read the whole application and I know everything that it entails without having to actually click through and start the application. But that's just it's the same information. But that would be really helpful. I think that's the only thing that would take any time. But again, it should just be the same info. I think that was the only feedback we got from the last round with that subgroup.
So we can get a call out soon. We need to let's get a committee together. Who wants to serve on the committee that can review things both before and after?
I would love to. I've also led the last 2-ish rounds. And if someone else wants to lead that, that's great. If someone else wants to just learn kind of how we've, figured out our process over the last couple of years, I could show you how that works. Just anything works. I guess it depends for me for the timeline. Just so everybody knows, I will be out of the country for 2 weeks, starting a week from tomorrow. So if that doesn't mess up the timeline, then I can help as much as needed.
Madeline, will you say the dates that you're gone again for me?
Yeah, I'm gone April 19th to May 3rd. So it's
Okay.
just 2 weeks, and yeah, so I don't know how that would affect our timeline here, but I'm sure we wouldn't be reviewing anything by then on the back end.
So who would like to join Madeline on those efforts? A great way to get involved. Perhaps we can decide that offline. One's not enough. Okay.
It's fun. We probably need a minimum 3 people, for sure. I would say.
Officios can do it too. So I know Darcy said we have 2 awards of 2,000 each, earmarked 4,000. We could actually do one more. We actually had an unexpected windfall. Basically, 2 of the returned Arts and Community Awards went back into our operating budget. So we have a little bit more to play with in our operating budget than we thought. So I think we could do 3 awards at 2,000 each without stressing.
Unless we use some of that for the website development.
Unless we need some of that for the website, yes. And another spending need. I've had some discussion with our county liaisons about an intern. And the time is right for a summer internship. If we're going to do it, now's the time. Stephanie, do you want to say a little bit more about this and what the that intern's purview might be?
Yeah, so one of the things that Tati and I have been talking about, and it's like always on the to-do list, and it's really one of those things that it's just really a struggle, I have to admit, to take the time out to deeply research it, which is developing like a maintenance plan for our public art inventory. And it seems like a really ripe internship opportunity, because so much of it is like deep research and connecting and just like pulling together examples of how other governments do it, looking at what we currently have, and then also like identifying. I mean, Tatiana has done a lot of this already to like connect with the services that we already have within ACC, that we have for mapping and where we have our trails and how we do all of that sort of cool stuff with GIS. It's just a matter of like really sort of creating an overall picture of what's possible so that as a government, we can look at the ways that we fund this year over year, the ways that we apply resources, not just the funding, but also like staffing and how we add to the public art inventory and the mapping and the maintenance. So all of these things are sort of intertwined. So it's like a matter of like, here they all are, and here's how we take care of them and what it looks like to care for them over the course of their the whole life of the object, right? So that is the sort of thesis that we thought would be a wonderful internship. We've met with a graduate student from UGA. I think we did reach back out to her about her availability or interest in doing this. I'm not sure if we heard back from her yet, but I know it's a really busy time for people, especially in grad school, since it's towards the end of the semester. But that was an idea that we had that seemed like a worthy amount of time to dedicate to a deep dive on this particular subject. So yeah, basically an internship around developing a public art maintenance plan for our existing inventory. And we could, you know, like I said, we've met with a graduate student already. So I think we're looking at doing that via contract labor, just like hiring someone for X amount of time, looking at it from that standpoint, instead of hiring, or I'm not sure actually even how we would do an internship. I haven't. I'd have to look at the models for it a little bit. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of thinking about contract labor, so that right now is like everything looks like contract labor to me. Sorry.
This sounds like a great learning opportunity and also something that we really need to get done in the short term. So I think this sounds fantastic.
I think the timing is right. We have some money to spend. You know, we could spend $5,000 out of our operating budget with this unexpected returned funds, and plus 3 $2,000 awards for arts and community awards, and still have enough wiggle room to carry us through the fiscal year. Do you envision this as a full-time internship, like 40 hours a week kind of thing?
I think it probably would be closer to like 20 or 30 based on just like, I imagine the amount of time we'll be able to support it as well as meeting and regularly. So I was trying to think of that. I mean, a 40-hour internship. I don't know. I always imagine an internship or a contract sort of short-term job has a little bit shorter hours than that. But I guess, you know, we can tailor it to what availability we have for the person. Oh, I didn't know that, Tatiana. So yeah, we can make it work.
Just from my point of view, I think it's a great idea. I know our inventory and maintenance really needs to be worked on. We need that in certain professional situations. If we're applying for a grant, whatever, we need all of that desperately. So thank you.
My concerns are, if ACAC is funding, then, you know, let's be very deliberate about not having the intern scope of work creep over from ACAC to leisure services. So let's be guarded about that, considering the source of funds. I mean, perhaps there's an ACAC wish list too, if it were a full-time internship over the course of 10 weeks, majority summer. Perhaps the time frame lends itself to more than just a maintenance plan. I don't know. But we do need to get started on advertising that, putting a job description together, getting it out, because if we're going to do it at all, it needs to be probably a summer internship, so probably timely, and it would have to be spent this fiscal year.
Oh, Donna, you go.
Donna, you're muted.
You're muted.
What?
Maybe she can't communicate again. Oh, mic is not working. Okay. She's typing furiously. That's important. There's specific labor department requirements for interns. So yeah, we can leave not breaking the law to our allies in county government. But I think we do need to make a decision if we're going to do an intern today. I think it is that timely. Yes, let's trust our ACC counterparts to not have us violate the law. B, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, and we might just take the language that goes with the intern position and just tuck it away for our future, capabilities. Because I don't think we know what that might be. So it's just one of those little knowledge nuggets that, might be in our administrators or the lawyer's office that we aren't aware of. Follow me?
Right.
I can follow up with our HR department about how to approach this. We're hiring a lot of people for summer already right now for summer camps. So we hire a lot of seasonal labor. And I also can draft like a scope of work. Tatiana and I have already, we've already looked a lot at how to do this maintenance plan. So I have some things written up already. So we could develop this. And I agree, like seeing it as maybe looking at the labor amounts and how much we expect someone to get done over the course of the internship, so we can look at some of those numbers. So
okay, yeah. Thanks.
About the budget points we're making in the chat there, do we have a standard to work from? Do we have a standard to work from? Like, should 15 be the floor, or is there something? The only thing that I can think of off the top of my head was like the artist assistants, which that's very different than what we're talking about. Maybe that's a Tatiana question.
I don't know.
Yeah, artist assistants, we paid 25 per hour. When I was doing part-time contract labor, I started at 18 and went to 20. Now I'm at $17.91 an hour. So I don't know if that's a good way to gauge it, but I'm sure we can work out something that is worthwhile in addition to being educational for someone. I'm envisioning more of a part-time as opposed to a full-time with a, $18 to $20 an hour.
Well, and the other thing is that the fiscal year ends in June, so that means that we'd have to use funds, depending on when they're working, that's going to be like July and August, right? So how's that, I'm not sure how that works.
It would be coming out of, one for June and another for July and August.
Right. So like, that's what I'm saying. So what we have in our budget now is what we're kind of thinking. It's like we're earmarking for this intern, but I'm wondering if we could do it as like a lump sum.
That's what I'm going to ask the HR is like, if it's a contract position, we could actually set the dates for, May and June being depending on availability. And we could hire someone that we think, we could reach out to people who we think are comparable, who are prepared to do the work and have the expertise and do it as a contract labor, which is a little bit different. And therefore we can say, here's the amount of time you have, and here's the deliverables, and here's the scope of work. And we could round that out by the end of the fiscal year. And I don't know that
June.
I don't know. Wait, say it one more time, Darcy.
Can all the funds come out before June?
Yeah, I can't say like I have to look at like the whole thing and ask HR about it, but it may not be the whole amount, but it'd be pretty close. We tried to see also just like based on this person's, like whoever we asked or whoever we got, what their availability is, but we could you know, I think someone could still get a lot of work done if they concentrated on it. And we're also, you know, able to make the time for it, you know, our availability for offering them, you know, connecting to resources within the government and sort of like answering questions and having FaceTime with Tatiana and I, like building that into it. So we'll have to look at like what all of that looks like. And I was just kind of waiting to hear what y'all thought of it after this meeting, before I approached HR about it to see how we should.
You know, really, the finance department is our best allies in the county government. They're very responsive and they're pretty creative. So perhaps if we identified this as a funding priority, I don't know if we could get a little nimble and use some of this fiscal year's funds spilling out a little bit into the next fiscal year, if it's for a priority that was already identified, this internship or whatever we're going to call it. So I bet we have more leeway than a strict June 30th party's over.
Yeah, could we not just take from the next fiscal year's operating budget to continue this in July? Like, do we have to do May and June, or can we let's do June and July?
Well, we've asked for an increase for next fiscal year, and we were very specific about what that would be for. Two things: our website and increasing the award amounts for arts and community awards. So since that's already pre-identified, I don't really want to veer in a different direction to start out the next fiscal year.
And there's no leeway with this. The only leeway there is in reconciling. So let's say if we have something that was supposed to be credited to the previous year, we have about a couple months to settle that in terms of getting things reconciled to the right year, but we can't put work from you know, retroactively that way.
Yeah.
So if we were to, like, Darcy, if we were to say, just say we were going with the number that Andrew threw out in the chat, 6,000. So would we have the 6,000 for what we're talking about? Would you say another 6 for arts and community awards, 3 at 2,000 each? And we could do all of that this year, fiscal year?
Well, right now we have 4,000 earmarked for awards, and then we have 2,500 earmarked for the workshop, the retreat.
Oh, that's right.
And then we have 6,000, I guess, let's say, for intern.
That's
So
why we have a treasurer.
yeah, so that basically, I mean, that would leave us, that's it. I mean, we have, you know, $500 left.
Yeah. So only 2 awards. Yes. Thank you, Darcy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Darcy, are the books, because we had $1,500 worth of books. I don't think they were in our most recent statement from the county.
Okay, that was coming from the operating budget?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no, that wasn't in this one's.
Okay.
They did take out the stipend, but not anything for books.
Yeah, the stipend was taken out. But yeah, that was the only thing that was let's see. There was the books and you know, another, let's see, there might have been some smaller charges on there for things, but yeah, we're gonna make sure that's taken out of there.
Okay.
So by my math, we have not quite $5,000 to spend on an intern, just shy, like $20 shy. So
I don't
sure.
know.
I mean, if it needs to be
this-
part-time, it needs to be part-time.
Yeah.
We can let our county liaisons maybe sort that out and take a vote on whether or not to have an internship initiative. Okay.
Yep.
So, perhaps a motion to have a summer intern, with the main focus being public art maintenance, in the amount somewhere above 4,500, but not quite 5,000, with our leisure services folks to sort out the details. Does that sound like an adequate summary and something we're prepared to vote on?
Mm-hmm. It does.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion to capture that sentiment? Did I? We could say I made the motion.
I think you did, and I'll second.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Madeline seconds. Okay.
Great.
All in favor of the summer internship initiative,
In the ballpark of 4,500.
Mm-hmm.
or whatever paraphrase we need for intern to not have the Department of Labor after us. Okay, great.
Right.
And not go over budget.
Right.
Yes, that's
Put
also
all of that
vital.
in the motion.
Walking a tightrope. Any opposed? Great. We needed all 6 to say yes to this to pass. Thank you. Thanks, y'all. We look forward to seeing the work that comes out of it. I know there's real bandwidth constraints, and I think having public art maintenance be the sole focus of somebody's work, for how long, however long we can get that, will be a net positive.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it meets like ideas of offering professional access to arts administrators and people interested in public art. It's a rich opportunity to connect to how this kind of programs and funding work within a city government. So I think it's a really good opportunity for someone to learn this, and also and a big help for us. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is huge. Is this the first time ACAC would have an intern?
No, we have internships. Usually, like I said, they're sort of, through the university, they come to us from a variety of ways, but we really try not to do unpaid internships anymore.
Right.
I think that, we try to pay people for their labor, but sometimes there are lots of students always, asking and opportunities there. So I know that Dee Dee's hosted several at the Linden House Arts Center, and we've had them before as well at the Morton Theater. We have several that work with our AV tech for experience, and then they also become contractors for us eventually. So it's a wonderful training ground for students, and to have this professional access and like see a working theater or performing arts. So yeah.
But for the commission,
The commission hasn't.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you said AC. I thought you said ACC.
everything's AC something. Yeah.
Public art master plan
Yeah.
would have liked us to have had an internship initiative by now. In the 5-year plan, that's one of the things that Todd was trying to prescribe for us. So I think it's great that
We have had our artist assistantships. I don't know if that kind of, those are essentially, we have paid professional development opportunities.
Yeah.
We'll call them.
Well, this is great. This is huge. I'm very excited.
Yes. Epoch setting. Thanks. Anything else on Arts and Community Awards? Cool. So somebody work with Madeline, get those calls out in a timely fashion, et cetera, et cetera. Both the internship and getting the Arts and Community Awards call out, both of those things are really time sensitive given where we are in the fiscal year.
I actually do have a point on that. Stephanie mentioned the idea of a theme. The last theme that we used, and we talked about it not committing to a theme every time, but the last theme that we used was Athens in Color. It was really well received, and I've heard it suggested that if we want to use a theme on the next round, we can use the same theme, but just specify like performance only, or we could make it something like that as a group last time because it was a big new thing, and I'm wondering if we need to define that and vote on it now, or if we can agree that some version of Athens in Color or Athens in Motion or something like that would be okay for this round, given that we need to get a call out before we would have time before the retreat or the next main meeting. Does anybody object to the idea of Athens in Color, Athens in Motion, some variation of that?
No.
Athens in Motion is the name of a county board that
Right.
deals
Okay,
with
not that
night
one.
transit, and so that
It's a
might be
good
a little
name.
confusing, but
Okay.
I like where you're going with it. Maybe instead of motion, I don't know, movement, I don't know. We can all think on it, and maybe if we have an idea or a suggestion, just, I can send out a thread, maybe getting some more committee members for Madeline, and then the committee can maybe decide the theme or iron out
Yeah.
the title or something.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Just the committee can do it unless we needed a full vote. So I don't think we do this time. Thanks,
Not for
Tatiana.
the theme. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Anything else from the outreach team? Okay, and the strategy team, I gave that recap at the top of our meeting. We're continuing to meet at least through our retreat, and then we'll reassess. Okay, arts happenings.
Me and another grad student are curating a show in the sort of strange barred basement of the Five, that restaurant downtown with like those paintings of the Beatles.
Five bar, yeah.
Below that, yeah. Below that is a strange little space that has these barred windows right next to the alley. And me and a fellow artists are curating a show in there that's going to open on Saturday, the 23rd. We're still hammering out exactly what the opening is going to look like, but it's going to be from 6 to 8, regardless of what it is. So please come to that. And also, we're putting out a press release, and we're looking at various things like of course, the flagpole and some other UGA affiliated things. But if you guys have any other ideas for things that we could hand this press release to, feel free to. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll give my report. As you know, I always have a big list.
Yes.
Yeah, and Mickey, you forgot that you will be speaking about your artwork in the juried show this coming 21st of April. Put that in your calendar, Mickey. So we have 3 more artist talks. They've all been so great. And again, it's another opportunity to hear from the artists directly and provide these artists professional opportunities to, learn how to speak in the public and various other things. So it's April 21, Saturday, April 23 at 2 p.m. And then again in May 19th. And that's all for the 47th juried show. April 28th at 6 p.m. outside, hopefully good weather, on the North Lawn will be a storytelling event in coordination with our local Athenian exhibit right now. Emily Cameron will be interviewing, and we'll hear a lot of stories about your neighbors. So that would be very fun. Put that in. Every day, I have the pleasure of walking past Tatiana's purse collection. Thank you, Tatiana. I want them all, and I choose different ones every day according to my outfit and my mood. So I appreciate that, and that is up for view, and it got very nice
press, in the papers, and it has been sent sort of all over the place. In fact, I
Yeah,
saw
we got
it in a
pictures of
paper
the
in
Associated
Florida.
Press.
So there's that. This week, you know that we are in the midst of a public art teen class with 10 folks, and they this week will be meeting with Ellie Saragusi, and the pop-up bus is coming, so they're going to listen to the artist about all of the activities that she's been engaged with in the public. And then they will be meeting Vanessa Hay at the Music Walk of Fame to talk at the Pylon plaque. So they're really having a very full experience, and they really need to get down to painting the murals now. So they've been having a lot of fun, but there is definitely work to be done. So that is very exciting in the education. And I have you all down for your day retreat. Remember, we open at 10. So yeah, on that it's a Saturday, if I'm correct.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's the latest at the Linden House. Thanks.
Thanks. Anybody else?
And May 15th, don't forget, I mentioned last time, is our memorial celebration for Nancy Lukashevitz. That's a Sunday, May 15th from 2 to 4 at the Linden House.
Day after a retreat, so we can
Yes.
send another reminder at our retreat.
And just found out there's no baseball game that day. Yay. So we won't be competing with all of the balls and bats next door.
Oh, next door.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. I have one. At Creature Comforts right now, we have an artist named Carolyn Shu. She's pretty new to Athens. She only moved here last summer, and she hasn't gotten the chance to meet a lot of people. So you probably won't have seen her work before, and it's so fabulous. It's so fun. So please go check that out. It's up for another month, and I know she's going to do great things. But yeah, if you hear of her, if you meet her, she's a delight. The last thing I wanted to mention is at the end of the month, if you want something to do besides Twilight, the Athens Symphony Orchestra has their free pops concert on the same weekend as Twilight. They have a concert on Friday night and then a concert on Saturday night. Yeah, that's a fun thing that our member Serena plays in. I won't be here to play in it, but you can support Serena by going.
Great. Anyone else? Well, thanks for your time and attention, and see you next time. Keep up the good work, everybody.
Thank you.